evening. Welcome to our third presentation of our JFK 60 series. It's presented by the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute at the University of North Texas and JFK expert Mr. Dory Wiley. Before we get started, I'd like to just remind you of a couple of housekeeping things. If you could please remember to silence your phones. We had one go off last time, and we are recording these to be preserved in the UNT's portal to Texas history. I'm glaring because I remember whose it was. And we live in the same house. Ooh. I'd also like to let you know that we will have bussers coming around to take your plate, so no need to get up. And I would like to go ahead and turn it over to Dory Wiley, who is going to introduce our amazing presenter tonight. Enjoy the evening.
Thank you very much. How's everyone doing? All right, quick review. This is night number 3. How many of you were on night number 1? How many of you were night number 2? Wow. How many of you first night? We got a few. Great. We'll have this recorded and online. I'll show you here in a minute. How many of you went down to Dealey Plaza, Texas Theater? Okay, great. Our speaker tonight was in that movie, the Oliver Stone movie. It's going to be very, very wonderful, very exciting. I'll introduce him in just a second. Let's see. Man, I thought every guy was a clicker expert. I thought it was in our blood. My clicker doesn't work. I have to have a woman show me how to click. Look at that. The minute you touched it, that figures. That figures. So just as a reminder, we did the first 2. Tonight is a sniper training. On Tuesday, October 10th, which will be next week, Bob Tannenbaum, who was former deputy counsel to House Select Committee of Assassinations, former homicide district attorney for New York, won lots of cases, very opinionated, very spirited, even at whatever he is, 83, 84 years old. We're very lucky to have him. He will bring some books. If you want some, his books will not be about the JFK assassination. Okay, they're about his murder trials and stuff, but he's put out a bunch of books, and they're very good reads, and if you like that kind of stuff, bring some money for that. The next one after that is a couple of weeks later, on Tuesday, October 24th. This is the one I mentioned before, which will be Judith Baker is perhaps the most interesting testimony out there. Says Oswald's girlfriend that she worked on a cancer bioweapon to kill Castro with Oswald and Ruby and Clay Shaw, met Carlos Marcello, David Morales with the CIA, all kinds of stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to, in a trial format almost, or testimony format, we're going to swear her in. I'm going to ask her a bunch of questions, and I got a trial attorney, litigator friend who's going to cross-examine her, and then we'll do redirect, and you can ask her some questions. So if you find her credible, it'll be interesting to see if you do, because we're going to put her in that format. She's a very interesting witness. So no one's ever done that before, and I can tell you everyone in the research community is going to be very interested to see how this video and event turned out. And then I'll close up on November the 2nd and do that one. What that is, a trial you never heard about, which I mentioned to you before, Howard Hunt versus Liberty Lobby. I'll do a quick review of the Garrison trial, how it relates to that trial, what happened in that trial, who we got on record. This is the first time in history we got in a trial format, under deposition, with direct examination and cross-examination, a bunch of CIA agents, including 2 former directors of the CIA. What was the conclusion of that jury trial? And I will wrap up with some more conclusions of my own with that one. And then on the 10th, which is not on this page, we will have the last trip, which will be down to the UNT Law School, which is in the old Dallas Municipal Building where Oswald was shot and killed, and they made a museum out of it. It's a great idea. The city put up a bunch of money for it. They made a museum out of it, but you can't go see it because it's a working law school. You can't just walk in and go see it. You have to have a scheduled appointment to do that. We still have a few slots open, and if you want to see it, this is your chance to go see it because it's very difficult to go do. And I think that's it, except for this. I wanted to show you this. I told you last time I was on the board of the UNC Library. They have the Texas Portal. The portal to Texas history. They have the most amazing online access of any library in the state to Texas history. And some of the things they have in their collection is they have a bunch of JFK photos partnering with the 6th Floor Museum. You can take a picture of this if you want to. There's also some handouts in the lobby you can pick up. They have the Dallas Police Department collection, partnering with the Dallas Municipal Archives. They have John F. Kennedy Memorial Collection from another group. They have the Jack Ruby trial transcripts, which is really interesting. At the UNC Law School, one of the dean actually teaches a class on the Jack Ruby trial, and I got to lecture in that class to the law students, which was really interesting to talk about the Jack Ruby trial. Fascinating study by itself. This is the Jim Marrs collection. Jim Marrs was one of the top researchers in the JFK assassination. Wrote a book called Crossfire. Some people say top 5, top 10 minimum book on the JFK assassination himself, and all his papers are there at the library. The Charles Reagan papers, and then the Judge Sarah Hughes collection. If you remember, she's the one appointed by LBJ, and she's the one that swore him in on the airplane. So enough of that. I want to tell you about Brian because I'm cutting into his time, and I don't want to cheat him or you out of what he has to say. He's been researching the JFK, much like myself. He got hooked as a kid. He's been researching the JFK assassination since 1969, has interviewed numerous eyewitnesses who were in Dealey Plaza on November 22nd. He has also interviewed several members of the Dallas Police and Sheriff's Office who were on duty that day, Parkland doctors, medical personnel, who also participated in the autopsy at the Bethesda Medical Center in Maryland. He holds a master's degree in criminal justice from Washburn University and taught criminal justice there for 8 years from 1994 to 2003. From 78 to 2001, Mr. Edwards served with distinction as a uniformed police officer, thank you for serving, with the Lawrence, Kansas Police Department. I wonder if he's a Jayhawk fan, where he served as a field training officer, firearms instructor, and was the department's senior crime scene photographer. From 82 to 90, he was assigned to the counter assault group, and in 1991 was transferred to the department's elite counter sniper team, which gives him a nice perspective to talk about what he's going to talk about at Dealey Plaza. His original research on the Zapruder film has been cited in several books, and he is co-author of Beyond the Fence Line, the eyewitness account of Ed Hoffman and the murder of President Kennedy. He's got a new book coming out that I highly recommend, and you'll get a chance to, it hasn't come out yet, but he's going to put up a slide, take a picture of it. It's called Admitted Assassin, the Roscoe White Story, next month. And it'll tell you about Roscoe White a little bit. I did forget to tell you, Judith Baker, when she comes and we do the trial on her, she will have a book. And so if you want to hear her full story, it is loaded with stuff, and I'll bring some money for that as well. So all these people have books they're trying to sell, right? In 2019, Mr. Edwards appeared, as I told you earlier, in his documentary review, JFK, Destiny Betrayed, and more recently in the documentary JFK Revisited, Beyond the Looking Glass. We are so glad that you came from Lawrence, Kansas to speak with our group today. Mr. Edwards, it's all yours. Come on out. Hopefully you can figure out how to work that out.
Wow. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people here. Well, I hope you're going to enjoy this. I know I will. I want to tell you where we're going. and so that you'll be able to follow along with me. Let's get, all right, here we go. This is, before we jump into it, I have a little house cleaning to take care of. This is for the FBI agents in the room, and you know who you are. As you know, this is for the FBI guys. As you know, for 32 years, I lived at this address. I recently moved, and I want to make sure your files are up to date on me. So I recently moved to this address so that you know where I'm at. And I still have, as you know, I still have the two SUVs, the Honda and the Toyota. But I've recently, as of August of this year, added a new car to my fleet. So if you see this, this is what I'm driving. Done well. Whoops. Oh. And if you can't find me with the personalized license plate, you're not looking hard enough. So anyway, all right, let's get into it. Law enforcement experience, Dory touched about it just briefly, but I wanted to expand on it just a little bit. That's me we're on the fire range. I'm one of the firearms instructors and one of the armorers for the department. Traffic officer, and I was on the forensics team as the senior photographer for the forensics crime scene investigation team. And I was also on the counter assault team. That's me, the first knucklehead in the door. This is one of our training exercises. I did that for almost 9 years, and then I transferred to counter sniper team. We had 3 teams of 2 and a sergeant. I'm using a Remington 700P with a Mark IV 10x40 scope, and we fired 165 grain Hornady gold medal match full metal jacket bullets every Monday for 7 years or 6 years I was on the team. We were out in the grass at the lodge shooting, and our sergeant was a deviant little guy. We don't know what we were going to shoot from the time we got there, but most of the time it was apples or Tootsie Pops. So I hate Tootsie Pops. Hate them. Just cannot stand Tootsie Pops. Anyway, that's that. Okay. All right. And then in 2018, I was called as an expert witness for the defense on the Lee Harvey Oswald versus the state of Texas at the law school in Houston, Texas. And then there's Frightened Brian on the set of Oliver Stone's set in Washington, D.C. I don't remember telling him my name, but I think he figured it out. I was too scared. I mean, it's Oliver Stone, for crying out loud. But anyway, you saw that at the Texas Theater, so we'll move on. All right, so Dory's asked me to cover 3 areas quickly. The Mannlicher Carcano, the ballistics, and the single bullet theory. If you don't know what any of this is, that's okay. I hope I will explain it clearly enough and basic that you'll know what I'm talking about. If you don't, make a note and I'll figure it out at the end. All right, so Oswald's Mannlicher Carcano rifle. It's Italian Raid, 6.5 millimeter by 52, shoots a bullet that's World War II surplus. Remember the good old days when you could pick up your favorite outdoor magazine and order a gun through the mail? What happened to those days? Well, according to the government, Lee Oswald, using an alias, opened up this magazine, the February '63 edition of American Rifleman, and saw this rifle and decided he was going to buy it through the mail. And as you can see, the prices have gone down quite a bit since '63. Here's a carbine. It's a carbine, brand new. Notice they don't say the name of the manufacturer. They just say it's a carbine. Okay, who made it, you know? 1995 with a scope attached, and we'll send it to you. So he fills out the order form, And the order blank is for a 36-inch model, bottom mounted straps here. It's a carbine, and the ordering number that declines the sporting goods store assessed was C2T750. So when you filled out the blank, the ordering blank, that's what you wrote down. Notice that it says for an extra $7.50, you could get a clip, the magazine. Clip is not the right word, magazine, and a box of 108 bullets. Well, Oswald didn't order those. He didn't order the rifle, only ordered the rifle, not the bullets or the clip. Well, that was a heck of a bargain. You should have ordered that too. All right, so in the National Archives is that rifle, but it's 40 inches long. When he placed the order in February, they ran out of the 36-inch model and shipped him the 40-inch model. Same gun, but it's a different length. It holds the clip. It's called an en bloc. For those of you who are familiar with firearms, you load all 6 bullets and you push it down into the top of the firing chamber. And when you load the last round, the clip falls out. It says, "Hey, you're out." Okay? So this is my rifle. I've got one just like it. With the clip loaded, fully loaded to 6 rounds, we push it into the top. And when you load the last round, the clip will fall out of the bottom. How many of you seen the movie Saving Private Ryan, when they're firing on Omaha Beach and they're shooting their M1 Garands and the little clip goes ding? Well, this one goes the other way. It goes down. So there's the postal. Okay, I got to figure out which one was the pointer. The coupon in the magazine was for this. He filled it out. He's asking for the rifle and nothing else. No extra money for the rifle, just for the rifle, and not for the clip, and not for the bullets. So there's the money order, the U.S. postal money order that he applied for and got it, paid cash for it, and postmarked March 12th, 63. So they're going to, Klein's, the sporting goods store that he sends this thing to, they're going to ship the gun to the post office box. It won't fit in the post office box, so they put a letter or a notice and said, "Hey, you've got a package that you need to come to the front counter." Nobody at the postal office interviewed by the FBI remembers anybody coming to their front counter and said, "I have a rifle, I need to get picked up." How did Oswald get the rifle? I'm still working on that. I don't know. I have no idea. And there's the letter that was sent. No clip or bullets were ordered. Keep that in your head. No clip, no bullets. There's the clip. You have to have the clip in order to fire the weapon rapidly. If not, then you have to fire the gun, eject the shell, take the new bullet, put it in the chamber, lock the bullet down, find your target, and shoot. That's not the way you rapidly fire a weapon. You would never be able to fire more than 2 rounds in 10 seconds. They come in a box of 50. So if Oswald shot the president, I'm saying if, and he fired 3 rounds, and 1 round was live in the gun when they found the rifle, they ejected a live round, that's 4. What happened to the other 46 bullets? I don't know. The FBI says they went to every gun store in the Fort Worth, Dallas area, and they couldn't find anybody that sells 6.5 millimeter Mannlicher Carcano bullets. Where did he get them? I don't know. That's another thing I'm working on. So when they find the rifle, this is Carl Day of the Dallas Police Department Crime Scene Unit. They find the rifle after about an hour of looking through the depository 6th floor area. They find the rifle, they pick it up, and their mistake was that they had a photographer there taking pictures. So now we have a picture of the rifle, and according to deputies that I've talked to, nobody knew what kind of gun it was. Well, doesn't it normally stamped on the barrel somewhere and, made in USA or wherever? Well, according to these two deputies, when the rifle was found, Seymour Weitzman, this rifle was a 7.65 Mauser. That's different than an Italian carbine. Totally different. And it's a different caliber, 7.65 versus 6.5. Two different sizes. Deputy Boone says the rifle appeared to be a 7.65 Mauser. We got two people saying it's a 7.65 Mauser. How did it end up to be a 6.5 Mauser, Italian rifle? Another part of, I don't know how to figure that one out. Roger Craig. Deputy Weissman walked up and said it looked like a Mauser. I was standing next to him, and we weren't any more than 6 to 8 inches from the rifle, and there stamped on the right, stamped right on the barrel of the rifle was 7.65 Mauser. Sounds like a Mauser to me. Case closed. That's not the rifle. It's in the archives. I've seen it. I've been there. I've taken pictures of it. It's a 6.5 millimeter Mannlicher Carcano, a carbine. This is not the same rifle. So, I crack myself up sometimes. They find this rifle, and rather than process it and search the scene anymore or freeze the location, nobody touch it, let's take a look at it, Lieutenant Day leaves the building with the rifle, walking it down the street, and goes to the sheriff's office. Shows the sheriff, look what we found. Aren't you guys great? Get out of my office. Then he has an officer, a deputy, take him to the police station where he processes looking for fingerprints and all that. But that's not the way you handle evidence. Let's walk down the street. What's interesting in this picture is, it appears to be the clip right there. The clip is never entered into evidence. There is no evidentiary record of a clip being entered into the Dallas police evidence. Well, where did it come from? Oh, I don't know. We just found it. No, it had to be on the ground somewhere. Yes, ma'am.
Is that a side-mounted strap?
It is. Remember the rifle that he got was a different rifle? The one he got was a side mount 40-inch. Same rifle. So, good observation, good detective work there. So this picture is in the Dallas Police Crime Lab. They take a picture of it. You can tell the detail is, really great. You get close to the thing to take a picture of it. And Day, he's working with this thing. Now, I have to tell you, when he left the depository, it was like 1:20. At 6 o'clock, he's still working on it. And the chief of police tells him to bring the rifle down to the third floor and show it to the media. I would say, I'm sorry, chief, but I haven't finished my work yet. He never went back to the book depository until 7:30 at night. Who knows what they're doing over there? According to Lieutenant Day's testimony to the Warren Commission, he lifted a partial print off the metal guard underneath the trigger. A partial print. Well, who did it match to? Well, it wasn't good enough to match. Okay, there's reasonable doubt. He takes it up to the third floor or fourth floor and shows the media. Here's the rifle. In the audio on the NBC coverage of the assassination, you can hear somebody in the crowd say, "What kind of rifle is it?" And Day, he takes it down, he goes, "I believe it's a Mauser." You don't even know what it is yet? How do you not know? You've had it for 5 hours. You don't know what it's made of? So there it is. It's in the hallway. Everybody's taking a picture of it. Oh, God. When they filled out their inventory to release to the FBI, they wrote Italian made, 6.5, serial number, blah, blah, blah. Who made the damn thing? We don't know because they never checked. Well, guys, come on. It's either a Mauser or it isn't. If it's not, well, who made it? I don't know. A lot of I don't knows in this story. So in the sniper's nest, I'm sorry, I call it the Patsy window because I don't believe Oswald was there. I believe he was on the second floor. But here's one version of the Patsy window, and there's another version. Which one is the real one? Anybody have a guess? I don't know. You don't alter a crime scene while you're taking the pictures. You just don't do that. You don't touch anything until you take a picture. Well, we got two versions of the same thing. Reasonable doubt. How many rifle casings were found on the floor? I'll tell you. Again, go back to Roger Craig. He says we found 3 holes. That's empty shell casings. We found 3 holes beneath the window on the 6th floor. They were laying in 3 in a row, not more than an inch apart, and all pointing in the same direction. How many of you in here are hunters? Show me, I want to see the hands of the hunters. Bolt action, right? What are the odds of you ever removing a weapon, removing a fired cartridge, and they end up in the same place every time, pointing in the same direction an inch apart? I'd like to have odds on that one. So either one of two things. Either he's wrong or this is wrong. This is the crime scene photo I got from your university portal. Thank you very much. There are 3 shell casings on the floor. Come on. Oh, come on. There they are. They're not an inch apart. They're not facing the same direction. This is how the photographer, when he showed up, that's what they look like. Reasonable doubt. There's the 3 shell casings. And it clearly says, you can see it on this one, WCC, that's Western Cartridge Company, 6.5 millimeter. That's an identifier. Well, we know the rifle shot 6.5 millimeter, but what kind of gun was it? I don't know. So, here's the problem. The numbers don't line up. That's 3, right? There's 3. This is a Dallas police inventory. It says they took pictures, 2 negatives and 4 prints each of 2 6.5 millimeter, 6.5 bullet holes and 1 live round. What? Hold on. Stop. Hold on. That's 3. What happened to the other one? I don't know. Come on. 3 bullet shells, 2 bullet shells, and 1 live round. And here's an FBI report that I found, a couple years ago. 2 photographs were also made on November 22nd, 1963, of 2 6.5 millimeter or 6.5 ammunition holes obtained from the Dallas Police Department crime lab. Also photographed were 1 live round of 6.5 millimeter ammunition. Well, what happened to the other one? I know what happened to it. It ended up in a desk. And it never made it to the FBI until lots later. Oh, wait, we got to have a 3-shot scenario. Oh, wait, I got that bullet in my drawer. Let me get it for you. That's not how you do it. I have so much fun with these people. They just crack me up. You would never pass my law enforcement class on how to preserve and handle evidence because you'd be fired. Here's a picture in the Dallas police station. 2 live rounds, 1 live round, or two empty shell casings, 1 live round. That's only 2. So did Oswald only fire 2 rounds and have 1 in the chamber? I don't know. But these numbers don't match. One of the bullet shells, one of the shell casings, had a dent in it that could never have held a bullet. And you don't do that by stepping on it. This is brass. It's hard It's hard metal. I believe this was done after the fact. Whoever was firing that rifle picked up that shell casing, stuck it back in the gun, and tried to get it into the chamber, and it dented it. That's more plausible than, well, that never held a bullet, so we're down to 2 bullets. I don't know what happened to it, but that doesn't have a bullet in it, and it could never have had a bullet in it in that condition. Before I go, how many think they know the answer to this question? How many rifle casings are in the National Archives? 3. That's very good. And 1 live round. Well, that's not what the evidence suggests. It says there was only 2 shell casings and 1 live round. Now we've got 3 empty shell casings and 1 live round. Oh, let's get it together. Come on, let's all be consistent. This is an interesting, I'm trying to find the document for this, but this is an FBI memo dated 12/2/63. And the important part is it says, after checking gun and sporting goods sports stores in and around Dallas-Fort Worth, agents were unable to determine where or when Oswald had purchased 6.5 millimeter ammunition for the Mannlicher Carcano. Where did he get it? Did he make it? I don't think so. They found no reloading equipment in his apartment. Well, how did he get this ammo? Again, I don't know. This is interesting part of that memo. It says the company manufactured, Western Cartridge Company, manufactured 4 million rounds of this ammunition for the Marines in 1954 under this contract, yet this ammunition did not fit and could not be, well, that's a typical government thing for you. Well, give me 4 million rounds. Oh, wait, they don't fit. Okay. But the last sentence of this, it says, this is the FBI saying this. This gives rise to the obvious speculation that it was a contract for ammunition placed by the CIA with Western Cartridge Company under a military cover for concealment purposes. Duh. That's interesting because the FBI is telling the CIA, you guys didn't cover your tracks very well, and we found out about it. But did that ever end up in the Warren Commission documents? No. No, absolutely not. So, at some point, they found 6 bullets after they checked the Dallas-Fort Worth area for every gun store and every pawn shop and every sporting goods store. Couldn't find any bullets, but yet for the Warren Commission documents, they found 6 bullets. Where did they find them? I don't know. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Yeah.
What's the question?
No, the gun that the Day is holding up is the rifle that they found in the book depository. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. So they were able to find at least 6 bullets somewhere. So then they take the rifle to the U.S. Army's infantry evaluations branch at Aberdeen Proving Grounds, and they asked this guy when he testified to the government, did you determine the possibility of scoring hits with this weapon or on a given target at a given distance under rapid fire conditions? Did you test fire the gun? Yes, we did. We fired it at stationary targets. Well, first of all, President Kennedy wasn't a stationary target. He was in a moving vehicle and a moving person, so that right there negates the results of the test. But then they say from a window ledge of a tower which was about 30 feet high. You've all been to Dealey Plaza. The 6th floor window is a hell of a lot higher than 30 feet. It's 78 feet, actually. So are your results going to be any good? No, they're going to be totally different. The angles are different. Well, that didn't prove a damn thing to me. So there's the 30-foot tower, and there's the book depository. Totally different. So the government is using they're manipulating the evidence is what they're doing, which is not what they're supposed to be doing. But you're not going to know that because how many in here, honestly, read the 26 volumes of the Warren Commission? Me and another guy, that's it. They stack up this high and they don't say a dang thing. But they know that they fill it up with all this information. You're not going to read that. They counted on that. So they hid this in there so that you would go, well, wow, look at all the information they put together. It must be good. No, it's no good. It's crap. All right. Was there other evidence of bullets in Dealey Plaza? Yes, there were. There's one right down here. One bullet strike. This is the man, James Tague, who was an eyewitness who was standing underneath the Commerce Street overpass, and a bullet hit about 8 feet in front of him and sprinkled concrete. Well, not sprinkled, it tore a piece of the concrete and hit him on his right cheek. And he ducked behind the abutment to get out of the line of fire. Something stung me on the right side of my face just as the limousine got close to the underpass. That was my interview with Mr. Tague. He's passed away now. They're all passing away. Real nice guy. He's just a car salesman and just happened to show up and got stung by a bullet. So that's one bullet that Oswald had to have fired. The other bullet was the fatal headshot. Are you all with me so far? That leaves one bullet to do the rest of the damage on the president and Governor Conley. We'll get to that in just a second. Keep that in mind. He's hit by one bullet. Conley's hit by another bullet. President Kennedy's hit by a bullet. There is Dallas Morning News photographer took that picture and it appeared on the cover, front page, Dallas Morning News, the 23rd of November, 1963. A bullet strike hit that curb. That's all it could be. You couldn't take a rock and do that. There was nobody standing down there to throw a rock. That's a bullet strike. A mark, this is an FBI memo from the director, Director Hoover. You know, my grandmother always said, don't say anything bad about somebody when they die. Always say something nice. I'm glad that son of a gun's gone. A mark appearing on this is Hoover. Now this is Hoover writing to the government. A mark appearing on the curbing on the south side of Maine near the Triple Underpass. The mark was located and found to be 23 feet 4 inches from the abutment of the Triple Underpass. He's acknowledging there's something there. Well, if you pick up the Dallas paper the next day, yeah, there's something there. But they hid this. Tague wasn't hit by a bullet. He was hit by a goose flying by or whatever it might have been. They never acknowledged that bullet. There's another bullet strike. There's the book depository. There's Elm Street. And there's where you guys were walking all over this place. There's the book depository. There's a sewer inlet right there on the south side of Elm Street that there was a bullet strike there. Right there. Sidebar. When I took pictures of crime scenes, my stuff wasn't in the picture. Because that's not the way it looked. That's not what you're supposed to do. Anyway, so the photographer's taking a picture of this whole area, but I just wanted to show you that's where the inlet is. So let's look at that. Right after the assassination, this officer is Officer J.W. Foster. He was stationed on top of the Triple Overpass. He saw activity over here that people were milling around looking at this drainage inlet. So he went over there. And he says in his testimony, he saw something in the concrete. It was a fresh burrow in the concrete. And so he's protecting it. Get back. This is evidence. You know, we get back. This is Buddy Walters of the Sheriff's Department. He comes over and says something to the effect, what you got? Well, I found this, and there's something in the grass here. I haven't had a chance to touch it, but there's something there. Well, he touches it, but he's not supposed to. So while he's looking at it, they're protecting the crime scene. This guy comes into the picture. Well, they just step back. Who would have the authority to tell the Dallas sheriff or the Dallas police, to get the heck out of the way. The FBI, that's right. Very good. We believe this is an FBI agent. We can't identify him yet, but we got some ideas. But whatever it was that he's touching or looked at, and Officer Foster saw, he picks his fingers in the ground, and whatever it is there, and it ends up in his pocket. Evidence is disappearing before the president even gets to the hospital. He just walks away. Did you notice in that last picture, the previous picture? He's wearing white socks. An FBI agent wearing white socks? I don't think Hoover would go for that. The reason I point that out is because we believe, and I've talked to a couple CIA people, covert operatives, that's the way the covert operatives identified themselves. White socks. Okay. Something to think about. So there's the concrete pad. There's the gouge in it. Something was hard enough of an object and traveling at a high rate of speed to burrow into the top of that concrete. Rock? No. A feather? Not. Probably a bullet. But the problem with that is whoever shot that, they're not very good. They would not be on my team. If you miss the target by that far, you're off the team. Why? Does anybody have any thoughts of why that shot was taken? What was the point of taking a shot so far off? Evidence. For evidence. If we can't get a shell casing, we'll get a bullet fragment. We'll link it to Oswald's rifle. Well, Oswald wasn't over there. He was over here. That doesn't line up. That lines up with this building. So now we have another shooter? Maybe. Possibly. What do you think so far? Is this fun or what? Yeah. Okay. Good deal. All right, the Zapruder film. You've probably all seen it, or maybe you all haven't, but I'm not going to go into that because that's a whole nother lecture. But there are key things on the Zapruder film that you need to at least know about. President Kennedy, this is frame 230, and I apologize for the quality, but that's what we have right now. President Kennedy is clearly reacting to something that hit him in the throat. If he was hit in the back, he wouldn't grab his throat. He would have grabbed where the immediate threshold of pain is, right here. Connally is not reacting to a shot. The government's story is that one bullet fired by Lee Oswald went through the back of the president, came out his throat, and then went on to hit Governor Connally. Well, Connally is not reacting to a shot yet, but Kennedy is. So that bullet didn't go through both men at the same time. Are you all follow that? Okay. Two different things happen. Kennedy shot, Connally's not. That's one bullet. Connally's now hit. The bullet tore a hole through his back, fractured 5 inches of one of his middle ribs, and blew the debris into his lung, and it came out his chest. This is 6 frames later. The Zapruder film rolled at 18 frames per second. This is less than a sixth of a second later. A different bullet hit Connally. There's people firing from all over this Dealey Plaza into that car. Bullet fragments, and I'll zip through this real quick. Bullet fragments were found in the president. This one was found in his skull. There's more missing there's more here than are missing from the magic bullet, which I'll talk about in just a second. I had to get these from the National Archives. These are the bullet fragments. This one was found underneath Connally's seat in the limousine. How in the hell did it get under the seat? I don't know, but that's what this says on the placard, so I took a picture of it. Thank you, Mr. Archivist. Click, click. This is bullshit, but I'll take a picture of it. More fragments. This one was found in Governor Connolly's wrist. This one was in the car. This one was in the car. This one, I can't remember where this one's at, but it's about the size of your thumbnail. And this one was in, I think it was in the president too. But anyway, let's move on. So anyway, here's the magic bullet. This bullet, this is Commission Exhibit 399, the magic bullet. This is the one the government says went through President Kennedy from his back, came out his throat, went through Connolly's back, broke his ribs, went through his chest, right here at the midline, right underneath the nipple line, came out, turned left, went through his wrist and into his leg. There was more missing. There was more fragments here than are missing from that bullet. Now, how do they expect us to believe that? That's nuts. That's like fantasy on steroids. That is not. In my time on the Lawrence Police Department, I fired probably 5,000 rounds. I have never, ever heard of a bullet turning and coming through with no problems, no damage. Remember the damage to the ribs and the wrist and the leg. It's nowhere in the history of gunfire has a bullet ever duplicated that. If you do, call me first, and I want to see it. But this did not happen. There is a 3D or 4,000K scan of that magic bullet. There isn't anything wrong with it. Hell, you could probably put it in another shell casing and fire it again. There's nothing wrong with it. Come on. Under no circumstances do I feel that this bullet could hit a wrist and still not be deformed. We proved that by experiments. Chief Consultant, Wound Ballistics. That tears the whole government story up right there. That bullet didn't go through those bones. End of story. Move on. Well, if it didn't go through the bones, where did it come from? They take the president's body. Don't worry, there's no autopsy pictures. I didn't put that in here. But they take the president's body, they steal it from Dallas, Texas, and take it to Bethesda, where they're going to do an autopsy. Come on. Does anybody know who that is? Who is that? Anybody? Speak out. Who is it? I don't know. When I did autopsy, since I was the primary photographer for the crime scene, I did my share of autopsy photos. I don't want to ever see another one. But if you have a guy that has a wound on the back, how would you identify the person in the photograph? Any ideas of anything? What? How about something real simple? Put a mirror in front of the face so that you have the face in the picture and the injury wound in the picture. They didn't do that. I have no idea who this is, but I'm going to assume, according to the government, that that's President Kennedy. Okay, I'll buy that, but it's not. But it's interesting that there's two holes here. On the color, this is the colorized version of this same picture. This is I guess that's a ruler, but where the hell's the numbers? But anyway, and what are they measuring from? The third crease of his neck when he's like this? You measure from the top of the skull, that's stationary, and you measure down, and then you measure to the right or left of the spine. They didn't do that. So, that's a bigger hole than that. I believe, this is just my opinion, I believe this is an exit wound for a shot that hit him from the front. This is an entry wound from a shot that hit him in the back. So he's hit twice, once in the front, once in the back, just in the body, the torso part. You all follow me so far? There's something wrong with the pictures, because now, when we look at a negative of that, the same two holes are there. What I did was I polarized the same picture and just turned it into a negative, like an X-ray. Those two holes are there. Clearly that's a lot bigger. One of the doctors testified, how gruesome is this? He says, I stuck my finger in the bigger wound I stuck my finger in it and it didn't go through. Well, what kind of scientific research is that? I went up to the second digit of my little tiny finger. Well, what size is your finger? Well, I don't know, it's just your standard little finger. That's not scientific. So, my point is, get to it, this is what Francis Siebert, I was fortunate enough to be in the room when they interviewed Francis Siebert in 1978 in Washington, and he drew a picture of where the bullet hole was. He was at the autopsy. He drew a picture of where the bullet hole was. One of the bullet holes. Didn't mention the other one. I didn't ask him about that. But he said that that's where the hole was. So now we have a witness, we have a photo of that same hole. As the shirt that President Kennedy was wearing, right there. There's the midline of the shirt, right down the middle, in the back, a hole in the. Do you all understand that that's below the neck, right? Right. It's in the mid. It's right here. Okay. So that corresponds with the pictures I just showed you, and the negative, and the Francis Siebert's drawing, right? They all pretty much line up. Well, wait till you see this. That's not a very good picture. It's a close-up. So, Francis Siebert says in his FBI report, during the latter stages of the autopsy, Dr. Humes located an opening which appeared to be a bullet hole, which is below the shoulders and 2 inches to the right of the middle line of the spinal column. Kind of like right there. Right? That's about the same thing. He's describing the same thing. This is the autopsy body chart that the doctors filled out when they were doing the autopsy on President Kennedy. They filled out, there was a hole there, 7.7 by 4 millimeters. Just about a little bit bigger than the 6.5. So in '64, the FBI was going to recreate the assassination because they didn't know what the hell they're doing. They're going to try to figure it out. That's a Lincoln, right? That's the president's limousine. That's a Lincoln. If you're going to do a reenactment, would you not or would you have the same car that the president was riding in? Right. Well, guess what? They didn't do that. They used the Cadillac, the follow-up car. That's not the same car. Your angles are going to be different. This guy is sitting up higher in the car. But my point is, notice on the stand-in for President Kennedy, there's this white patch on the back. That's where the hole was, according to the autopsy picture, the suit, coat, and the jacket, and Siebert's recollection as a witness. Have I got time to tell you that quick story? I got kicked out of the Dearborn, Michigan Fort Henry Museum. I was up there on a conference, a fraud conference, and I thought, well, I'm going to go to Dearborn because I want to see the car. I know it's not the same car because it was rebuilt under Lyndon Johnson's orders and said, I don't want to see that car again, get it out of my sight. They drove it back to Dearborn and rebuilt it from the ground up. So the president's car that he was riding in when he was killed does not exist. But yet at the Henry Ford Museum, there's this beautiful 61 Lincoln stretch limo, and they have placards all over it. The Kennedy car, and the pictures, and the Kennedy car. And so I'm taking this picture, and this young Oriental couple is standing there, and they're taking pictures, and I overhear him going, yeah, that's the president's car that he was killed in. I can't let that go. I said, you know, it's interesting you say that. I can't help but overhear. I didn't mean to overhear, but that's not really the president's car because that car was dismantled and sent back to Hess and Eisenhart in Dearborn, Michigan, blah, blah. I went into a 10-minute dissertation, and they're going, I didn't know that. Well, then I turn around, and there's like 5 people standing there listening, and they go, well, how come they're saying that this? Well, because it's the government version. I look over the corner and there's a security guard going, he's giving a lecture over here. Sir, come here. What? We'd rather you not give a lecture. I'm not giving a lecture, I'm answering a question. A civilian asked, and I spoke up. Well, we'd rather you not. Same thing happened to me at the 6th floor. I can't go back there either. But anyway, we move on. So here, I've been kicked out of more places. There's the spot on the back. Now, this bullet, according to the government, hits Kennedy in the back, below the collar, to the right of the spine, but somehow ends up going upward in his body and comes out his throat, finds Connally sitting over here, and goes, oh, hell, another victim. Go there and go up and down and flip and a flop and end up in his leg. What? No. Nowhere in the history of gunfire has a bullet ever been repeated like that. There's another picture of it. So the shirt says there's a hole in the back. The body shows there's a hole in the back. The reenactment says there's a hole in the back. The autopsy body chart says there's a hole in the back. Pretty consistent. I'm going to say there was a hole in the back. But the FBI said, you don't know what you're talking about. The government's real version is this. The shot hit him in the throat, in the back of the throat, high in the neck, so it could come out the throat. That's not the way it showed on the evidence. Well, who's right and who's wrong? Whose money is on the FBI's version? Thank you. This is nonsense. That's not the evidence that's presented in the clothing, the pictures, the testimony. So we come up with this. Oh, you weren't supposed to see this one. Our inspector, my grandmother said, never say anything bad about somebody when they died. I'm glad that son of a bitch is gone. All right, so here's what the version looked like. It goes up and it goes around and flips and ends up in his leg. And it supposedly ends up on a stretcher in Hull in the hospital. And a guy picks it up and goes, well, that might be important. Puts it in his pocket. This is Mr. Specter. I don't call him Senator because that's a term of endearment, but he's Mr. Specter. They have the follow-up car. That's not the president's car. And they're in somebody's garage. I don't know. I have no idea what the hell the transit's for. But they're trying to figure out how we get that hole in the back of President Kennedy to come out his throat and move over to hit Connally. And he tried all kinds. This must be Jimmy Buffett's daddy or something. I don't know who the hell that is. He must be an FBI on his day off or something. I don't know what the hell that's going on. But we're trying to figure this out. Arlen, it ain't going to line up. This will line up, but what happened to the throat? Well, how do you make the bullet go up inside the body and come out? You can't. So they tried and tried and tried. And you know what? If it doesn't work, here's what you do. You just change the facts. Remember that line in the man who shot Liberty Valance at the end? Do we print the legend or we print the facts? Print the legend, man. It's more fun to read that. All right, part 2. Have I lost anybody? Okay. Part 2. This is my area of more of an expertise for me. As you know, I was a sniper for 6, 7, 8 years when it all blends together. But if I was going to set this ambush up, here's what I would do. I'd have to have enough people to support logistics, intel, transportation, communications. I have to have all these people in place. Well, Brian, if you have that many people, somebody's going to talk. Yeah, that's why you keep it to a minimum and only compartmentalize the parts that you need to have knowing about what's going on. So there's your crime scene. You've been there. Ambush, a sudden and unexpected attack from a concealed position. Concealed is the key word. Conceal yourself so that you don't get caught, that you don't get exposed. Tactical, the use of combat-style methods to obtain a specific goal characterized by ingenuity, audacity, and precision. That's how we operated when we were on the entry team. Dynamic entry, expose them to so much stimulus they don't know what to do. That's why we throw a flashbang, or we break a window on the back of the house and go in the front door. They don't know what to, they don't know where to look. And we're hidden while we're doing that. The 4 C's of a tactical operation: control of the high ground, command of firepower, cover, concealment, and communication. Let's talk about one of those right now. Sun Tzu, he who occupies the high ground will have the advantage. Boom, end of story. High ground is good. How many of you are deer hunters? Show me, deer hunters. You don't do it on from the ground, do you? You're up in a hide, right? High ground is good. You know why? Deers don't like to look up, and neither do people. People don't like to look up. I caught a burglar, a serial burglar in our community one year, and he was hitting every house, every business in the area. Nobody could figure out how he's getting away. So one night we get a call that there was an active burglary in progress at this residence. So everybody rushes to the scene. Oh, we'll get this guy this time. So I get there late, and I'm walking around with my flashlight, and I'm looking up in the trees. And everybody else is looking at the house. Edwards, what are you doing? Looking for the, oh, hello. Hi there, come on down. Nobody looks up. In this case, exactly the same scenario. Nobody looks up. High ground. Next time you're in Washington, D.C., go by the White House, wave to the guys on the top. They love that. No, they don't. They don't. A friend of mine, his son was as a SEAL, and he got stationed up at the White House during George Bush #2 administration. He said, man, this is a great vantage point. He said, you don't go up there unless you're wanting to see something. But these guys, these are serious hunters here, men hunters. But they could fire around a quarter mile down the road down in Washington. But they're up there. Command of firepower, that's my team, that's the second team. There's old Brian behind the bunker again. First one in the door, last one out. So you overwhelm your opponent with overwhelming exposure to firepower. Bring more weapons than the other guy. Cover and concealment. This is cover. Cover is preventing return fire. Concealment, on the other hand, is that. Can you see the guy? There's his scope. There's the barrel. That's a good hide. That's really good. Von Clausewitz, take advantage of concealment and the element of surprise to attack the unsuspecting enemy from a concealed position. Concealed, concealed, concealed. Hide, hide, hide. Communications. Secure, encrypted communications so that nobody is listening on their little shortwave radio band in Dallas and going, hey, there's something going on in Dealey Plaza. These are encrypted, high-tech, military-grade communication systems. And there was such a place at Fair Park that had that. I believe that was the communication hub for the assassination of President Kennedy. Out in Fair Park, underneath the health building, there was a secure communication system run by the city, county, and federal government. All right, so we get to the ambush. How am I doing on time? I don't know what that means. Oh, God, okay. Project Lancer, a kill-only operation. This is not, we're not going to hurt the guy, we're going to kill him. And from now on, when I refer to President Kennedy, I'm not going to refer to him as President Kennedy because it's not out of not respect, but as a tactical officer, this is a target. He's the target. Okay? So when I talk about the target, we're talking about the same guy. Here's how I thought it would lay out. You have to have people in place to be able to do all these things. These are the shooters. These guys down here answer to this guy, and they don't know any of these people. This guy doesn't know this guy. This guy doesn't know this guy. All they know is what they were supposed to do. Compartmentalize. Location. Once it was established that President Kennedy was going to be traveling in a motorcade and going through Dealey Plaza, the plan starts. How can we get him? Where do we have to put our men? What kind of environment is it? Are there places that we can hide? Are there buildings we can get into? All these logistical things have to come down and get done quickly. I believe that this was scoped out the minute that he announced that he was coming to Dallas. Come on. So here's the view. Target's approaching. You know the route, right? It came down Main, turned left on Houston, and made this 120-degree sweeping illegal turn down here. And when it did, it exposed itself to the Patsy window. This is the part of the reenactment. If the target was right below you, why wouldn't you shoot then? Hell, you could take a box of books and... No shots were fired here. Why not? They waited until the car got down the road to crossfire. That's the only reason. Recon of the kill zone. Where is the target going to be? What street is he going down? Well, he's going to go down this street. Okay, now we can start measuring. We get our landmarks. We got to figure out how far it is from my final firing position, my FFP. How far is that from where we're going to kill him? He has to be killed from the time he gets here before he gets here. He has to die in this stretch of roadway. No ifs, ands, or buts. He's got to get killed right there. So we're going to put all of our guns on that center roadway. These guys had to know that that car was going to go down the center of the road. They had to know how fast that car was going to go. They had to know where he was sitting in the car. All that information was sent to them in real time the moment he sat down in Love Field. They knew exactly where he was going to be. On-time target calculation. Something I just do in my head automatically. But it's 465 feet from the curb line at Houston and Main, or Houston and Elm to the triple underpass, 465 feet. At 30 miles an hour, he's only going to be in the kill zone for 11 seconds. That's too fast. We got to slow him down. Who's driving the car? What branch of service does he work for? The Secret Service. He hated Kennedy. Did you know that? Bill Greer hated President Kennedy. Bill Greer is a player. He's the one driving the car. He even testified, yeah, we were going about 10 or 11 miles an hour. What the hell are you going so slow for? You heard the first shot, you didn't step on the gas. Well, I thought it was a backfire. Well, you weren't well trained at all. So anyway, at 465 feet at 20 miles an hour, you're only in the kill zone for 16 seconds. That's still too fast. So what we have to do is slow it down to 10 to 11 to 12 miles an hour. You'll give 30 seconds. You hunters, that's a lifetime. You don't even have to have a scope. You just wait. Hell, I got 20 more seconds. There's my target. Where do you aim? Aiming points. Law enforcement officers are always taught center of mass. Here to here to here to here. That's where all your vital organs, you get a high velocity round and there you're done. Most of the time you're done. A lot of times you've read in papers where officers have fired 16, 18 rounds and the guy is still not down. One sure way to make sure the target is killed is what? Headshot. It's the soft spot. I had an opportunity to meet Carlos Hathcock at a sniper school in Denver. Guy was old, 93 confirmed kills, and the guy was a superstar. But he said, that's the headshot. Go for the sweet spot, he said. So, if your target is facing away from you, you put one in the back of his head. These next 4 shots, these examples, will sever the brain stem instantly, and you'll drop before you could take another breath. You won't know what hit you. That's why his eyes are open in the Bethesda autopsy. His eyes were open when he got killed, and he never blinked again. Shoot for the back of the head. Little occipital protuberance in the back of your head, just put your fist right there, that's your target. If the target is in a profile, you put one right in his ear canal. Drill right through the brain, gone. If the target is on an angle to you, put one between the ear and the eye, right in here. And finally, you got one approaching you from the front. Come on. Put one right between his eye and his nose. He'll be dead. Supersonic round traveling at 3,000 feet per second will devastate the head. It's like an egg. Good segue. That's a pistol bullet going through an egg. Imagine what a high velocity supersonic bullet will do in a skull. Massive cratering, massive fragmentation, blowing out everything. And that's what happened. They blew his brains out. The action. This is frame 313. This is the fatal headshot. It hit him right here. Now, if Lee Oswald was in a position, supposedly in a position from behind, how did the bullet get to the front and the right side of his head? I don't know. But it seems like, to me, the shot came from the right side. But that's just me. I'm just speculating. The moment he sat down in that car, Love Field, somebody was on the radio going, okay, target is in the car, right rear seat. Don't hit the lady in the pink. Just don't hit her. No collateral damage. Can you imagine how you would have felt if you would have hit Jackie too? Oh, live with that the rest of your life. No, I don't think I'd want that. These guys were good. These were professional, military, trained shooters. These weren't somebody get off the street and go, hey, you went deer hunting last week, how'd you do? Okay. Hey, you want to go shoot another thing? No. These were professional people. All along that route, there could have been some operatives radioing the information to the field commander saying, okay, he's at Harwood, Maine now. He's still in the back seat. No delay. He's still there. Still in the back seat. Okay, good. Thank you. But anybody could have been an operative and just put that information out there. There's the target. Anybody had eyesight on that car is a potential operative to provide that information. My suspect are these guys. This is the pilot car. These were driven, this was about 5 to 6 to 8 blocks in front of the president's car, and everybody in that car is a bad guy. Cops, lieutenant colonel, intelligence. One guy's from the Department of Agriculture. What the hell is he doing in there? He don't even carry a gun. But I think these are some of the players. The other players could have been somebody in this car. There's the president's limousine on Main Street about ready to turn on to Houston. This car was driven by the chief of police. In the right front seat is Sheriff Bill Decker. In the back seat are 2 Secret Service agents. Their jobs, according to their testimony, was the guy in the back seat right was to look between the 2 people in front and make sure the way is clear. The guy in the left rear, his job was to turn around and watch behind and make sure everything's okay. Well, you don't want to protect very much. Fire control officer has full tactical control over the action. When that car entered Dealey Plaza, he was on the radio, stand by, scope in, ready to go. And they would wait for the word to fire. Our word to fire was Alice, because it was never going to be said over the radio. And when I was targeted, when I was scoped on something like a Tootsie Pop, and my sergeant would say in my ear, Alice, boom, just that quick. I don't have to wait for him to go, okay, go ahead and shoot. No, it's Alice, boom. He didn't get the word out. That's what this guy would do. He would coordinate the 3-shot scenario and make sure everybody was doing what they're supposed to do. So here's where I would place people. I'm sorry, this is where I would place the fire control guy. High elevation, unobstructed view of the entire area. What better to be on top of a 7-story building than see the entire area? That's a great spot. I don't know where the guy was, but I know he was up there. I would think he'd be up. Remember what I said earlier? Nobody looks up. Hell, he could have been standing out there going, "Hey, how's it going?" Nobody'd ever look at him. Here's the jail, Daltex, book depository, kill zone. This is from the top of the courthouse. This is from the post office. A lot of these pictures I'm showing you have never been seen by very many people. I got these from the actual original source. Post office, you can't even get up there anymore, but that's what it looked like. I don't think there was anything going on in the post office. I think it was up on the roof was the spot. This is from the top of the old red courthouse, the clock tower part. That's a great command of the whole area. You could be on the radio as a fire control officer, go, "Okay, team 2, you got a guy coming to you, evac," and he'd see the whole area. That's a great spot. Escape, the opposite way of where the action is. The action's here, go that way, because everybody's going to come here. Nobody's going to go that way. Were there spotters in the kill zone? Oh yeah. Yes, definitely. There's 2 of them right there. There's the president's limousine. There's 2 spotters. One guy with an umbrella over his head. It's not raining, for God's sakes. It's 64 degrees. What the hell's an umbrella doing in the middle of the kill zone? Well, you just don't want to get that fine complexion messed up, I guess. But these guys are spotters. I believe, this is from a tactical perspective again, I believe each one of these guys was spotting for a different team. So team 1 or team 2. They're not working together, but they're standing next to each other. There they are. After the shots are fired and everybody's running away, these guys sit down on the curb. They're not running because they know exactly what happened. They're part of the plan. We don't know who these guys are. But I think this guy with the white jacket, that's an antenna. He's talking to somebody. If you have one, you got to be talking to somebody else. It's got a radio. I believe he's talking to, I'm sorry? Oh yeah, exactly. Exactly. Good call. Good call. White Sox. There's an antenna. Who's he talking to? Probably talking to the guy. There's a polarized version. There's the antenna. And nobody's going to pay attention to them. They'll probably think they're security guys. You know. Oh, okay, no problem. There they are, sitting on the curb watching the people go by. Oh. Looks like he's tucking, there's the antenna. Looks like he's walking away, making sure that radio doesn't fall on the ground and get in trouble. Walking away, just walks away. We don't ever see him again. This is the last picture we got of him. There's a guy on the bridge. He's got a radio in his hand too. I suspect that white shirt guy or white jacket guy is looking that direction and he's talking to him on the radio. You got people coming to you. Okay, I'll take care of it. This is Officer Haygood of the Dallas, I almost said Lawrence PD. The Dallas PD climbs up the fence and sees these people up here. This guy isn't moving. He's just standing there talking to somebody on the radio. Was the kill zone marked? Absolutely, it was marked. When I say marked, I mean it was laid out prior to the president showing up and laid out so that they had a zone of responsibility. Each team had a zone. That's like we had a zone. If you got outside that zone, I don't fire. My zone is from the lamppost to the stop sign. And if it gets outside of that, I don't shoot. So this whole zone, the kill zone, was marked. And where it was marked, this is the reenactment. There's a yellow mark on the curb. There's one there, and there's one there. Y'all see that? They're there. They're still there. If you go down there today, I'll show you a picture of it I took last year. There's still remnants of yellow flaked paint on the curb. And it was fresh that morning because 2 witnesses that we've talked to said that we ran across the street and I stepped on the curb before I stepped down to the street and my shoes picked up that yellow paint. Who in the heck painted the thing in the morning? It was still wet. There are the 3 marks. There's more than 3. That's just from this reenactment you can see that there's at least 3. There's one in color, right in the kill zone. There's 2 more here, right there, and right there. A lot of people overlook this. I didn't. I'm thinking, how do you gauge your timing and your zones? Well, you got to have a marker out there, and there was the marker. There's 2 more. There's one there and one there, and there's 2 more at the end. There's the last one. This is frame 309 of the Zapruder film. There's one of the marks right there. Target is still upright, but he's in the zone. He's going to get whacked in about 1/6 of a second, but he's in my zone. This is frame 352. After the fact, there's the yellow mark right there.
Was there yellow marks on the right-hand side?
No, ma'am,
Why just the left?
because that's where the shooters were. It was on the top of the curb and the face of the curb. So from an elevated position, you could see the top of the curb, and from another perspective, you could see the face. So that tells me that there were shooters over behind the fence, or on the north side, or on the north side, and there were shooters at a high elevation. I took that 2 years ago. There's the mark. Here's yellow right there. Now you all drive golf carts, but you all drive. It still applies. It's traffic involved. My mother-in-law lived in a gated community, and I was so jealous that she got to drive a golf cart every day. Anyway, what's a yellow mark on the curb mean? What does that tell you? No parking. Well, Dealey Plaza Elm Street is 3 lanes of traffic. There's no parking there ever. There's never been a parking stall there. What was the purpose of the marks? Target acquisition markers. So what I'm going to show you now real quick is where I would put the people. There's with the high ground. Remember we talked about high ground is good. This is where I'd put my guys. This is the false assassin window. This is what it looks like from that perspective. It's 112 yards from that window. And you don't stick the rifle out the window. Unless you want to be seen, you're behind the window. Again, the Patsy window with the configuration of boxes. When the FBI did their reenactment, they moved all the boxes out of the way and they stuck the gun on a tripod. That's not how it was. Did Oswald have a tripod? Well, if he did, we haven't found it. So, the west end of the Texas School Book Depository. I think that's the shot that hit Connolly in the wrist and into his leg. The angle almost is perfect. It's the view from the west window. The Dow-Tex building. Upper floor of the Dow-Tex building. There's a fire escape. In 1963, there's a fire escape. Great concealment. Remember? Nobody looks up. And now you've got a bunch of steel ladders and stuff in the way. Nobody's going to look at that. It's perfect. This is a view. There's the fire escape. This is a view from the Dow-Tex upper level. And there's where your target's going to be, right down that street. There's the book depository. 140 yards. Try not to have anything over 110 yards or less, minus 10 yards. 100 yards is best, but with a scope, the target's going to look that big. I took my scope to Dealey Plaza when we were writing the book, the first book, and I had my buddy stand on the X. Y'all saw the X on the road I was, where was I? I was up on the bridge, and I had my scope, and I said, Casey, you got a fly on your ear. He goes, hey, you're right. That's how much you could see with a good, powerful scope. That target is filling that scope.
How does that guy line up with the yellow markers?
I'm sorry, what?
How does he line up with the yellow markers on the street from there? How does he know where his zone is?
You can see that it's on the top of the curb. It's on the top and the face of the curb. Top, face. It's on this side, all the way down here. Another low floor. That's your target line. The target's moving parallel with your rifle barrel. All you can do is just put it out there and wait till he gets to it. There's the open window on the fire escape of the Dow Tex. This guy almost fell off at the time of the assassination, fell down the step because something caused him to react, and he almost fell down. We don't know who he is, but top of the jail. This picture has probably never been seen before, except for a few people. I got this from a good researcher friend of mine who we're writing the book with. But this is the top of the jail. There's the book depository window. This would be a great spot for not only a shooter, but a spotter and the radio control guy. Low ground, probably 4 spots. And I know what you're thinking. Was there somebody in the sewer? We'll get to that in just a second. I think there was multiple shooters behind the fence. Mary Mormon and Jean and Mary. I just talked to Mary 2 weeks ago, and she's doing okay, but she says, you know, people send her copies of her picture and want her to sign it, and which is kind of cool. But we're using it on the cover of our book, her Polaroid photograph, and I called her, I said, can we use your cover? Use your picture? She goes, well, of course. If I get a copy of the book. Oh, of course. So they said that Mary's taking a picture of the president right here. There's her Polaroid. This is the actual Polaroid, granted from her archive. Close up, there's the president's head. This whole area has been blacked out. I don't know if it was done because of the photography, but it's not there. Charles Brem said on WFAA right after the assassination, my son Joey and I were in the line of fire. We're on the south side of the street. We're in the line of fire. The Newmans, good friends of mine, Bill and Gail Newman with their 2 children, Clayton and Billy, were standing there 15 feet from the car. 15 feet, 1 lane. The car came down the road. President gets hit in the head. That man and woman were taken to a television station, and this is what they said. They didn't have time to make up anything. Said, Kennedy was directly in front of us, and I was looking directly at him when he was hit in the side of the head. The shot came from the garden directly behind me that was on an elevation from where we were standing at the curb. Sounds like it's from behind him. Why, he can't make that up. Why would he make it up? And Gail, the whole side of his face and head exploded, and he went down in the car. Bill yelled at me to get down and cover the kids. It was so horrible. It was right behind them. Right there, somewhere in here. They covered them. And these photographers were coming through, and they see this couple throw themselves on the ground. They thought, holy crap, they've been shot. Click, click, click. Oh, you're not shot. But there they are. Abraham Zapruder, the guy who filmed the famous film, he said a shot hit him in the side of the head, and the shot came from behind me. These people don't have time to make this up. That's credible. I'd give that more weight than somebody saying the guy shot from the office building or from a book depository. You can see in this recreation here, this is the frame 317 that propelled President Kennedy's head back and to the left, and it slammed him into the back of that car, into the seat. Jackie was holding on to him, and all of a sudden, she wasn't holding on to him anymore because he was behind her. The shot blew his brains out and threw him backwards. Shot from the right front, in the garden, behind me. Sam Holland was standing on top of the overpass. He said, I saw smoke drifting out from the fence line. He says, I went back over there and saw cigarette butts and footprints in the mud, like somebody had been walking back and forth for long time. That's not the book depository. This man was standing on top of the post office, and he said, I saw somebody running from the fence carrying something. He says, I couldn't tell what it was, but he was running. Nobody else was running. He was running. Lee Bowers. Quick story. I brought students down here for the 6th floor museum tour, and I got kicked out, so I had nothing else to do but sit on the sidewalk, and I see a DART guy, the Dallas Area Rapid Transit, pulls up, and I see him go in that door. We haven't been able to be in that tower for 45 years. And so I thought, hey, I'm a nice guy. I'll walk over and talk to him. And he was coming out with a box of tools and unloading stuff. And I said, any chance I can go up there with you and take a couple pictures? Sure. Really? Let me make a call first. You'll never know where I'm going. Lee Bowers said he saw 2 men standing by the fence right here, sorry. They were doing something weird. He says, I don't know what it was, but they were doing something that I didn't recognize them, and they were doing something caused me to look that direction. So there's from Mr. Bowers' tower that I took. That's my picture. But he had a whole view of this area behind the fence. He saw 2 men who he didn't recognize wearing it. One was wearing a suit, and one was wearing a hat. He said they were acting suspicious. Mr. Bowers died in a 1-car crash in 1966. Happens all the time. I worked hundreds of those. Ed Hoffman, good friend of mine, wrote a book called Beyond the Fence Line. I'll show you a picture of it in just a second. The man I saw, Ed was on Stemmons. He was on the overpass, and he was looking towards the book depository, the west side. He sees 2 men standing over here, and one guy standing by this railroad switch box. Right there. He said this guy was wearing coveralls. The guy was walking back and forth that had a suit and a hat on. He says, I thought it was a security guy. He says, when the shots were about, Ed was deaf. I forgot to tell you that. Ed's deaf. He can't hear a dang thing. But he said he saw the man bend over, pick up a rifle and point it over the fence, and he saw smoke. And he says, I thought he was smoking a cigar or a cigarette or something. He says, they turned, and I saw the rifle across his chest. And the man ran with the rifle across his chest, ran down here and stopped, threw it to this guy. This guy stepped up to this pipe, caught it, took it apart, put it in a canvas bag, and ran out of the parking lot. Malcolm Kilduff, assistant press secretary, tells the world at 1 o'clock President Kennedy died of a bullet right through the brain, right side of the head. Not the back of the head, right side of the head. Low ground. This is a Tina Towner photograph that she took, part of her movie film. The president's car's turning onto Elm Street, and there's the target. The first vehicle that stopped at Houston and Elm, behind the barricade, was a laundry truck. On top of that laundry truck are bags of laundry. And it's looking straight down Elm Street. If I was going to do this, there's one of my shooters right there. It's muffled. Nobody's going to look there, and you just drive out of the area. I think that's where one of my shooters is. That's your angle. It's not practical. It's not a good place. I wouldn't be there. I could get my big butt in there. And how do you get out? Well, you just pop up the manhole cover and go, don't worry about me. I'm just, where you been? Oh, looking at the sewer. I believe it was a last resort. I can fit in it. But now they've welded it closed. You can't even budge it. So, from a tactical standpoint, unless you're a tunnel rat you ain't going to get out of there unless you come up from the top or come up from the bottom, and I don't think you'd take a chance of doing that. Okay, let's move on. Last one, on the bridge. Remember, there's people on this side of the bridge looking down. They're looking at this. They're not looking over here. I believe there was something here. I'm not saying a shooter. I'm saying there was something there that we have photographic proof that, and as you know of being down there, if you're driving down that middle lane, you're going straight at that section of the bridge. Not for very long, maybe 100 yards or so or less, but you're going straight. That's your angle of fire. I think a shot was fired from that overhead part of the railroad, the triple overpass, and I think that's the shot that hit the windshield. Punctured a hole right through that windshield. There's a armor-piercing, quality, full metal jacket rifle bullet that went through that windshield. You cannot pierce its laminated plastic inside of a glass. You have to have a super high velocity and a super hard bullet to go through there. But I think that's the shot that hit the windshield. Yes, ma'am. When the limousine got to the hospital, Officer Haygood, you remember the officer I showed you climbing the fence? He was at the hospital shortly thereafter when the limousine was in the emergency room entrance. And he saw the hole. He thought, what the hell is that? He took a pencil out and he stuck it through the windshield, through the hole. And he goes, that's a through and through hole. Get out of here, or go away. Secret Service made him go away. One kid was taking pictures of the limousine. They took his camera. Oh. So here's the there's something up here on the bridge. See how it's blocking the light? This is a billboard on the other side of the street. See how the people are blocking the light, their legs through the pillars here? There's something blocking the light, but there's nobody standing there. I think somebody's squatting down in a position like this. There's something there because shortly after, oh God, shortly after this picture was taken, another picture was taken, and there's nothing blocking the light. I have this friend of mine, photographer friend of mine, got up in that same position. I took his picture. See how the light's blocked? Yeah, I think that's consistent. So there's the Dillard photograph, and there's my recreation. I think somebody was up there, and that's him. Nobody's going to pay attention to that. We're looking at the president. Okay, I'm almost done, I swear. Final analysis. Wow, that was pretty good. Final analysis. President Kennedy was assassinated by a rogue group of militarily trained, highly professional assassins with rifles. And it was covered up by the government because that doesn't happen in America. We don't have a conspiracy. I believe there was multiple shooters firing at the same point in the roadway. I believe that some of the shooters didn't have to shoot because when it got to their position or got to their responsibility of their zone, he was down. They didn't have to shoot. A lot of the witnesses said one of the shots sounded like it was totally different than the rest of the rifle bullets. You heard of silencers and suppressors. I believe there was at least 12 rounds fired at that car, and only 3 were heard. Whoever did this, there's 12 injuries on both men and the car. There's damage to the car on top of the damage to the men. Whoever did this didn't abide by our democratic process. They wanted him out. And he was making a lot of people mad. And they resorted to this. So,
So who do you think did it?
oh God. Well, I know who didn't do it. It was Lee Oswald didn't do it. Okay. Visit our website, please. You'll see pictures that you've never seen before. They're first generation scans of pictures. We've got interviews, we've got videos, we've got everything you want to know about the Kennedy assassination is on that website. The next thing I want to show you, and I'm almost done, I swear, this is the first book I wrote. It's called Beyond the Fence Line. It's about Ed Hoffman. It's available on Amazon. I think the last price was like $30. And we're working on a new book. Gary Shaw and I are working on a book we've been working on for almost 5 years. And it's called Admitted Assassin. It's the Roscoe White story. And if you go to this website, you can pre-order. We hope to have it done in November, which is, next month. It was going to be about that thick, but now we've cut it down so we can get it published. But that's my new book. And any questions? Okay, let's go questions. Go. I'd be glad to.
Can you go back to one of those pictures of the site and show us where the grassy knoll is?
Oh, sure. Sure. Right there. This whole area is considered the grassy knoll. To the right in front of the president as he's coming down the street.
Thank you for your talk. 2 questions that I have for you. The first question is, how come not all of them would have had suppressors? And the second question is, did we have the kind of technology that would have allowed stealth communication or encrypted communication
Yes.
back in '63?
Yes. To answer your second question first, yes. And you know who would have that? Military. The Dallas police didn't have portable radios in their cars. Whenever they got out of the car, they were tied to that radio. Military had encrypted, high-frequency communication systems just for that specific reason. The first part of your question is, I'm sorry, what was it again?
Why didn't all of the shooters have suppressors? Why do you think that not all of them had suppressors? Why would they leave any sort of fingerprint?
Give them away.
Well, it would give them away, first of all. Remember, our scenario calls for all the shots that anybody would hear had to be coming from this area right here. So if these are suppressed shots, nobody would know any different. So if we suppress, it's an echo chamber, basically. It's like a bowl. It's like the Hollywood Bowl. You fire something in this area, and you don't know where it's coming from. But you don't want to have these shots be audible, because that would say, well, I heard a shot from over there by the fence. I heard a shot down by the bridge. They didn't want that. And if they did do that, if they did allow those witnesses to be called or interviewed or whatever, they would just suppress it. They wouldn't acknowledge that it ever happened. They don't know what you're talking about. In fact, one of the people they interviewed to the Warren Commission, they basically told him, "You're not a ballistics expert, are you, sir?" Well, no. Well, then you didn't hear what you heard. Well, I know the difference between a gunshot and a backfire. Well, you're not a ballistics expert, so they didn't ask him any more questions. Same way with the Newmans. They never talked to them.
Was the original motorcade route supposed to go right down the middle of Dealey Plaza?
Yes, ma'am.
Until that morning?
Yes, ma'am.
It changed, and
Yes.
then they had to turn and
Yes.
change it.
Yeah, it was published in the paper the day before. It was going to go right straight down Main Street. Quick story, Jess Curry, the Dallas chief of police, rode in advance with Winston Lawson, the advance man for President Kennedy on the Secret Service. He came down 2 weeks before and said, here's the route we're going to take. And they started at Love Field, and they drove all the way through Dealey Plaza, and they got to Main and Houston. And according to Jess Curry's testimony, he said, Lawson just said, we're going to go straight down here and we can go on. Well, at the day of the assassination, they didn't go on down here because there was a barricade right here. And so it's like a bunch of elephants following in the circus. You follow the one in front of you. Wherever he goes, you go. Remember the guy that drove President Kennedy? He was 68 years old, first of all. 6 years past his retirement, mandatory. But he'd never been, the last time he was in Dealey Plaza, he drove Franklin Roosevelt through Dealey Plaza. When they dedicated Dealey Plaza in the Works Progress Administration building, the Dealey Plaza. That's the last time he's been here. He didn't know what the hell he's doing. Remember, that's the guy that hated Kennedy, too.
I've got 3 questions for you.
Okay.
The first one is the bullet. The other 2 are logistics. So you haven't spent a lot of time on logistics. So the bullet question, I'm glad you have that chart. You talked about the bullet that hit near the manhole, the
Yes.
cement. But you never talked about when it was made.
Don't
You made
know.
an assumption it was done on November 22nd, 1963.
Well, it was documented in the Dallas Morning News that day, in the paper. Not only was this documented, but this was documented as well. There's 2 pictures in the Dallas paper that show that. In fact, there's a pin with an arrow. The caption said something like, "Police find bullet, Kennedy bullet," or something like that. So that was taken that day.
Okay, but this assumption is it was made that day. That had to be an assumption.
Yeah.
They didn't have a picture beforehand.
No,
It just
we
makes
don't.
me wonder about a lot of the theories about when the impact of the bullet was made. We had to make some assumptions on when it was made.
That's true.
I want to get to the logistic questions. You haven't talked about this. Given that let's just say we had an ambush team, and this was pre-planned. I understand that President Kennedy himself made the decision to remove the the bubble top
Right,
from the limousine just after they arrived from Fort Worth.
right.
What if he did not make that decision? And if it was kept on, what would the ambush team do then? Would they just
That's a good question.
abort the mission and find another place at another
Probably.
time
Yeah,
to carry
probably
out
so.
the mission?
I would think so. So that bubble top he's talking about was a clear plexiglass top on the back part of the car. It's not bulletproof. And actually, you're kind of correct. It wasn't President Kennedy's decision. It was the man who was
That's actually my second question.
Yeah.
Who made
Bill
that
Moyer.
decision?
Bill Moyers made that decision at the airport to remove that bubble top so that people could see the president.
Chief
Yeah.
of Staff for LBJ.
Bill Moyers? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I would think that he certainly had motive to do whatever Lyndon Johnson said. I know that. But whether Lyndon Johnson told Bill Moyers to remove the bubble top, I don't know if he would have been able to do that. But Bill Moyers is the one responsible for taking that bubble top off the car. What else? Yeah, okay.
So I still don't understand, why did Kennedy need to be killed? What was the main purpose of that?
Vietnam was a big one. He was going to pull out of Vietnam. The military-industrial complex probably said, no, that ain't going to work. We need to get that in there. Vietnam War was the big motivator. Kennedy was going to pull out in 65. He already wrote a memorandum saying that in 65 all the troops are going to start be pulling out. The money, the banking system, he was removing us from the gold standard and putting us back on the Federal Reserve note. Oil, Texas oil. He was depleting the allowance that the people would be able to write off 18.5% of their taxes to oil depletion. Getting along with the Soviets, not invading Cuba. You name it.
Mafia.
Oh, Mafia. The Mafia loved him. No, they didn't. What else? There was Cuba. They weren't going to go to Cuba. I tell you who my prime players are. You look on the Joint Chiefs of Staff. 2 guys, General Limitzer and General Taylor. Those guys had a lot of influence on the rest of the Joint Chiefs. And this was a military operation. And Limitzer hated Kennedy, and LeMay hated Kennedy, absolutely. There's a whole book about LeMay. He was the Air Force SAC, Strategic Air Command guy. And CIA was another reason to kill him, because Kennedy was going to abolish the CIA and scatter to the winds, he said. So there's some motivation, and a bullet is only about, $1.50. So it was easy to justify it. I'm sorry, dear?
How did they keep it
Found a rat hole.
quiet
Well, that's a good question. How did they keep it quiet afterwards? Let me just play devil's advocate here. Let's say this table right here is my team, and these are all my machinists, my mechanics, and my operatives. Do you really think that they're going to live very long after this is over with? You're gone. That's what they were going to do with Oswald, is take him out of the country. They killed him before they got him out of the country. And that's what the Roscoe White story is going to be about. They were going to take, Oswald was the patsy. Everybody in the plot knew that he was the patsy. The government didn't know who he was. And then he gets whacked by Jack Ruby, and then people start to think, maybe there's more to this than that. One lone guy, the guy never admitted that he killed President Kennedy, never admitted he shot Tippit, never admitted that he shot Governor Connally. What's his motivation? He loved President Kennedy. According to his wife, who I've talked to many, many times, did he like President Kennedy? Oh, I thought he was doing a great job. Why would he kill him? Multiple people were involved in this, and they're all gone. Most of them are gone.
How about the warrant?
They were handpicked, my dear, by Lyndon Johnson. And if you don't do what Lyndon Johnson says, you'll suffer for it the rest of your day. These guys knew the script before the witnesses showed up. They knew what this person was going to testify to. They knew that this particular witness, for example, saw something different. They never asked him that question. And then if he volunteered it, they said, well, you're not a ballistics guy. You don't know what you're talking about. This was a pre-done scenario where we had to know the results, that we knew that we had to know that the government was going to cover our ass if we did this and let us get away with it.
Brian, how many slides did you get through?
All of them.
All of them?
I did.
200?
I did.
Ooh. What about, there's one slide that you have that is missing that I remember you had. And it was one of the guys walking across Dealey Plaza with, he was like some kind of construction or maintenance guy, but he's wearing nice shoes. You remember that?
Oh, that's the tramps, the three tramps?
Yes.
Yeah, there was three, after the shots were fired, people were pointing toward the railroad yard and behind Dealey Plaza, behind the picket fence area. And one of the officers told the switchman, Lee Bowers, and said, hey, stop that train from going. There might be people on there. So they stopped the train, opened up the...
No, not the hobos. You have somebody walking across Dealey Plaza in like a white cleaner's outfit.
Oh, yeah. Remember I showed you the manhole cover right here? A big crowd had gathered, and the picture with Buddy Walters and the officer, and they picked it up, the guy with the white socks. Seconds after that, last picture that William Allen took for the Dallas Morning News, there was a guy walking across the street. He had sneakers on. 1963, nobody wore sneakers. They didn't have sneakers back then, but this guy was wearing sneakers, wearing khaki pants, a khaki shirt with his name Bob or whatever it was across his shirt, and he's got a claw hammer in his hand. Who walks around with a claw hammer? And he's going right over to that drainage inlet. He's part of the cleanup team, I think. He's going to dig around and make sure that bullet's not there.
So if you have some questions for Brian, he'll be here for a little bit. You can come up and ask him. First of all, let's give him a hand.
Thank you.
Enjoy that? Pretty good. He does a great job, as good as anybody I've seen talk about ballistics. And of course, he's got the authoritative background to speak from it without. So terrific. Some of the questions you covered, we covered a lot of the Warren Commission stuff on the first night, so you can get the video on that. The Secret Service stuff, I'm going to talk a lot about Secret Service at the law school during the museum there. So we'll cover a lot of that there. If there are some other things that you have questions about, feel free to ask Brian tonight or myself, and we'll try to either talk to them then or address them during some of the next presentations. Any of you coming back to the next one? Oh, we look forward to seeing you. Thank you. Have a nice evening.